Hello and welcome to episode number 99 of the WP Café show with me, Keith Devon, and my co-host, Mark Wilkinson. This is the show where we talk about WordPress development and business, really, and kind of what we're up to as a teeny tiny agency in our projects and products. Welcome along. As always, if you are watching along on YouTube live, please say hello in the comments. We'd love to know who's watching, where you're from, and we love getting your questions and comments throughout the show. And again, as always, if you do appreciate the show, please do leave us a little like. If you really like the show, you can consider subscribing. And if you really, really like the show, please, I don't know, post us on X or Facebook or somewhere, like share it amongst your peers and your friends. That would be massively appreciated. So it's been a couple of weeks, Mark, since we were last on. Anything interesting happen?
Yeah, so we missed last week's episode because we were in London. We both went to the WordPress London meetup, and I did a talk, so that was exciting. It was the first meetup that I've been to for must be 5 years, I think. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Really nice to meet some old friends that I haven't seen for a long time in the WordPress community, and chat with them, catch up with what they're up to. And then I gave my talk, which was all about our Job Relay product and how we built that up and turned it into a product from what it started with in WordPress and so on. So that seemed to go down well. I enjoyed giving that. It was good. So yeah, it was a busy week. Traveling down to London on the train, stayed over for the night. So that was kind of the end of last week. And then this week's flown by. Really, it's like I don't know. It seems Monday, like it was 2 minutes ago, and then we've got to Friday already, and we're doing this. So just been cracking on with our FSE build and supporting clients and various other bits and bobs. Yeah, so a bit of a mixed bag this week. What about you?
Yeah, similar. So obviously I was with you in London for WPLDN, which was I really enjoyed. I always love going. It's slightly disappointed there weren't a few more people there. It would have been nice to pack out the room and see a few more familiar faces, some old friends, and that weren't there that I was hoping to catch up with. There were a few there, which was great. Like I love it. I just kind of ties me back to a WordPress days of old in a way, you know. Like it's really nice, and there's just some really great people that are involved in that meetup. It's always good to see like Dan maybe and people, and I got to see my friend Nick, who I speak to every week, who is in the comments watching along now. So it was really, really nice to see Nick in person and kind of realize how tall he actually is, which took me by surprise. But yeah, no, it's good. And I thought your talk went really well. People seem genuinely really interested in it, in that journey, and some good questions. I bet the questions could have gone on and on after that if we weren't pushed for time.
Yeah, there was quite a few questions, wasn't there? Lots of people asking lots of good stuff, which was good.
Yeah, some hard questions too. What would you have done differently? I thought, like,
that was a good question.
And you kind of looked at me and then Keith. I was like, I don't know. I can't I can't really think of like loads that we could have or should have done.
The one thing I kind of thought of at the end was the fact that we've got, it's very much tied to easy digital downloads. I mean, it's tied. Like nothing's tied in stone.
We're going to tie it to something, though.
Yeah, you've got to.
If we hadn't used that, we would have used something else.
Could have perhaps built it in a more interchangeable way that's easier to do that. But
we still could.
Still could, like you said. So
I don't think that's a mistake necessarily, or like something that we should have done differently. It's just one of those things. It's like
the question wasn't what mistakes we made; it was what would you have done differently.
What would you have done differently? Yeah, fair enough. But do you think taking the time to build that differently back then would have been time well spent? I guess that's the question. Or do we have other things to focus on, like just building the product?
To focus on at the time, yeah. But really? I think it would open more options in the future. But like I said, those options aren't closed, so it's not a major issue. But I'm sure there's something else I can think of, but I couldn't think of anything at the time. But yeah, it was good to good to interact with people and get in a room again and to chat and talk and stuff and have a beer with people. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Elliot just says here, thanks, Elliot. It says in-person numbers are down for all WP meetups.
Yep, I can imagine.
Yeah, can imagine. I wonder why that is. I wonder why that is. If anyone's any ideas as to why that is, and what
I've got ideas.
Tell us what they are, then, Keith. We'll dive straight into that straight away. We'll go off piste.
COVID obviously made a difference.
Yep.
I think that's really harmed it. It's way harder to get venues now, for instance, because of insurance reasons and things like that, which I think is a kind of hangover from COVID.
Yep.
Just getting people out of their houses, I think, is harder now because of COVID. The whole work from home thing, not as many people maybe in the city that can just go to the meetup before they go home. That kind of stuff, I think, has probably made a massive difference. I also just think the maturity of WordPress is a big factor. Like when you're riding that steep growth curve and innovation curve, like there's loads to talk about. There's big things happening all the time. Like you could argue that Gutenberg is kind of similar, but I think people are less excited about those changes than the changes that were coming before. I remember giving a talk about custom post types at one of the very first WordPress London meetups. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. We're going to be able to do all this stuff that we've been wanting to do for ages. And it's like, everyone in the room's like, oh, wow. Like it's, and that kind of thing, because the project is kind of sort of settled and matured, although we've got this turbulence. Well, I'm not referring to this week's turbulence, just generally around the Gutenberg project. I think that's part of the reason. Like, there's kind of less interesting stuff to talk about potentially. I don't, because it's all kind of been covered before as well. I don't know. I think there's a mixture of all those things, really. But getting to those is, I always find it well worth the effort to go along.
No, I agree. I think they're definitely worth going along to and meeting some people and stuff like that. But I think there does seem to be more online stuff as well. And COVID is kind of the underlying issue, I think, behind all this, isn't it? People have just changed the way that they interact with others and things like that. So, yeah, interesting.
I think so. I think that's the big one, which is it's a shame. But I mean, these things still exist, and if there's one near you, I really encourage you to go along. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I just want to address the elephant in the room just really quickly. Obviously, there's some really, really big stuff going on in the WordPress world right now, and Mark and I made the decision earlier that we aren't going to cover it.
Talk about it. So, if you came for that, and disappointed.
So it's been done. I think maybe if we'd had a show last week, we probably would have, because it was pretty fresh. But I mean, I say it's been done. Like, there's new stuff coming out all the time, obviously, but there's other people covering it, and I just feel like we're all a bit tired of it now. I certainly am. So we're not going to go there today. Just to let you know. So don't be waiting on in a hope for like a big rant or like some big revelation, because it's not coming. Let's focus on more practical things like what we've been up to from a kind of development point of view and project point of view. What's going on? What have you been up to, Mark?
So I've been doing the usual supports for Job Relay. We've had a few new clients come on with and clients with WordPress as well, which is good. So we've got a few new builds to do those. So I've been sort of getting those started up. Had the sales calls as well for some of those, and got them over the line, which is nice.
Yep.
So I've been doing that. I've also been working with WooCommerce, which is like, I mean, I've worked with WooCommerce before, but not for a long, long time. So we have a client that wants to sort of like practice is the wrong word, test the water with some products to sell on the site. And they want to do it in a more specific way than WooCommerce is out the box. So they've only got certain products that they want to be able to offer. They want to be able to allow people to add products to their basket that aren't sellable, but they're included in the order, so that then someone from their team can get back in touch with them and discuss about that particular order. So I've been working on that. WooCommerce is a beast. It's like so much in it, and so much that you have to think about when you start tweaking it, if that makes sense. From all sorts of stuff. So Elliot says Woo blocks or classic. I haven't touched a block, so I guess classic. I don't know.
Does it come in? I didn't even know it. I mean, is that two different versions, or is that like, as in you're just using the template that gets spat out by default, or you're using blocks? I don't know. Can you enable that, or is that something you kind of choose between? Or I don't really know.
I haven't seen, but I presume I know WooCommerce works on like you put a short code for the basket on a page, and maybe there's blocks for that as well. But this site, I think they're just using short codes. It doesn't really matter to me. They're never going to edit them anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Those pages, they just sit there. So I've been taking some of the templates that WooCommerce uses and customizing some of those, just little bits of them, not all of them at all. Changing the way the basket displays the products, so like ordering them by category, and then with certain categories of products, I've been treating them differently, like zeroing the price. So as I said, they're included in the order, but they're not actually paid for. Doing all sorts of things like that, and then you've got to think about, well, actually, you need to do the same with all the emails that get sent, because obviously when it sends an email, it has an order, a summary in it, and things like that. So that's been quite a task to go through. So
dare I say it's gone quite well?
Oh, it's too early to say that
yet. Because when you showed me, you'd been working on it for I can't remember how long, and you're like, "Let me show you what I've done," and I was like, "Wow!" Like that was, it was. I was impressed in terms of like I was worried that some of the stuff was going to take quite a lot of wrangling, and like, oh my god, we don't know if we're going to do it. Let's try this thing. No, that hasn't worked. Let's try this thing. Has this knock-on effect. Blah blah blah. But you kind of like. You showed me the kind of MVP. It was like, oh, you've done it. I was like, I was so impressed.
It's like it's easy to get 90% of the way there, isn't it? And then the last 10% is the hard bit to sort of finish it and tweak it and so on. So I've got to the stage now where I need you to do some styling, which I said to you this morning, just to sort of like make it look a bit better. Then we can see what needs doing after that, and then we'll be pushing that to staging, connecting the Stripe add-on for the payments, because that's what they want to use. And then hopefully setting that into some sandbox mode where we just do some testing of that sort of like the path, of adding to basket, checkout, what happens at checkout. So we don't want them to pay for it at that point. And then we can check that flow works. And then once we've done that, we can then get the products ready on the live site and then push that to the live site. And as I said, they only want to do this to start with, which is really sensible actually, for I think it's 5 or 6 products to start with, and then once they're happy with those and they've tweaked the flow and they're happy with the way that works, they'll roll that out to more and more products. So a nice, sensible approach, which is nice. So it's been something a bit different, really, which has been nice.
Have you enjoyed
it? Yes and no. I mean, it yes, but not as much as I thought I would.
Interesting.
It hasn't got to there, but it could easily get to one of those projects where you're like, oh, I'm just fed up with this, and like it's just too hard, or why did I get myself into this? It hasn't got there, which is good, but I could see it easily getting there with WooCommerce because it is quite a beast to work with. And we don't do it all the time. So the little intricacies that you just know about the things you work with, you've got to learn them on the job. So, which has been interesting. It's been nice to work with something different, actually.
From your point of view, is WooCommerce still a kind of Mark-friendly platform to work with and to integrate with in terms of the code and the structure, and whether things are kind of object oriented or not, or whether things are kind of too JavaScript heavy or not, or like does it feel like familiar WordPress to you still working with WooCommerce?
Yeah, it feels fairly familiar. There's quite a bit of object oriented stuff in there, obviously. I don't seem to have had a problem as much with that as I usually have when I work with stuff like that. So maybe it's done differently or done right and they're done wrong or something. It seems to have not been an issue. So it's fairly friendly to work with. There's just a lot of code. So when you like, what was I trying to do? I was trying to find if there's a way of altering something. You've just got to start looking, and there's a lot of code to look through, and to sort of like find stuff. So it's not like looking through a smaller plugin where, you know, you can easily find out whether you can change the output of that or, you know, whatever you might be customizing. So, but yeah, it's been fun. I'd say it's been positive overall, so it's good.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
So that's what I've been working on this week.
Very nice. And
then I've also been working on our full site editing build that we've talked about a couple of weeks ago, and the week before that, I think. we had a call while we were in London, actually, didn't we, with the team there, just going through some things. I've been building some blocks, so we looked at the designs and decided that it's going to be better to build custom blocks for quite a few things, actually. So there's like a card concept, which is usually like image, title, link, essentially. There's variants of that. So some of it's like a cover image, some of it's just an image with some text underneath. Some of it's like where it's hot, you know, crossed over slightly for the design. So we've built that as a block, and then you can choose the different styles. It's all using ACF blocks. It's not nothing exciting like in JavaScript or anything. Because it's just too difficult to do. So ACF does a really good job. It means I can show and hide fields depending on which style of card they've done. So that's nice. So that's done. I think you need styling yet, and to decide whether it needs any more input from me in terms of the fields and things once you get to sort of style in the front end. And then I also, in the last day, in fact yesterday, and finishing off this morning, I've built like a pop-up card block. So this came about because the design had a page on it with like team members. So it's like a grid of team photographs. Over the photograph, there's like some information like the person's name and job title. And then the functionality was that you wanted to click on that and then it shows a pop-up of like the bio, and then it had the picture there as well and things like that. So we had a chat about several ways of doing it. Like, do we do a custom post type? And then, you know, it just pulls those custom post types into one page. We decided to go with a custom block. I've called it a pop-up card block because actually you don't have to use it for people. You could use it for anything. You could just have a picture, we'll overlay some text and click it and it loads a pop-up. So I've done that. You can add a title, a subtitle, an image, and then some text that shows in the pop-up, which is quite nice. And then you can drop in columns or whatever you want.
When you decided to make that more generic, so like less specific to the use case for this website or this design, was that because for like client reasons so they can reuse it, or was it more for like our reasons, as in we could reuse that plugin or that block on other projects? Or
I think a bit of both. I literally named the plugin. So I go into my git ignore file and I had an exclusion so it starts to track the code, and I'd named it. I think I'd named it pop-up card block. Sorry, I'd named it people. Was it people grid or pop-up people grid? Something like that.
Right.
Named it. And then I just thought, like, in my head, I had this conversation with the client, and they were going like, "Oh, we really want to use that for something else." I'm like, "Well, it's called people block. That's just going to confuse everything."
Yeah.
Then I thought, but it doesn't have to be called people block. It really doesn't need to be. It could be used for anything. And in this instance, we're using it for this. So that's where my thought process went in terms of trying to get this. And at the same time, I was thinking, well, it's more useful to us as well if we make it more of a generic thing, because we could use it for other things, etc., etc. So that's kind of the thought process I went through, and ended up with this idea of a pop-up card block. So the idea is you've got a little card, has an image and some text, and you click it, and it shows a pop-up of information. So
good.
You know, it could be used for call to actions, you know, sign up to this, or I don't know, but it could be used for all sorts. So we'll see where that goes. But that's something I've been building, again, using ACF, which has gone well so far. Yeah. So that was sort of my tasks. It's come through. Any questions about that's come in the chat while we're just talking about it?
Elliot was just asking about how you feel about the future of ACF, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't really have any thoughts on it.
That is. I mean, I presume that's along the lines of if they can't host it on WordPress.org, but I think ACF's just so big and so good that actually it doesn't really matter, to be honest. So hopefully that'll get resolved, and you know, it'll be back to where it normally was. But I think the future of ACF is good. Loads of people use it, loads of people love it. So I can't see that changing quickly, put that way.
Yeah. See. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, very good. Munch92 We haven't, and we're not going to. He's just asking if we're going to talk about the drama.
Yeah.
No.
No, we're not. So that's me. So what have you been doing? What have you been doing?
So I've got a RecPress build on the go. So just to remind people, RecPress is our kind of installed, done for you job board service for WordPress websites. Yeah, so interestingly, we were going to use our new version of RecPress for this next build. And I'd kind of started that process, but the client wants it up really quickly. So we thought, we'll just use the old version. So we're in a bit of a transition period at the minute. But yeah, I've started that. And again, that's gone well. So I've sent that over to the client for review, for feedback to see if I'm along the right lines with my design. And then mostly
just to confirm, is that an existing site that already has a design on the site that you've kind of copied or used? Or
it doesn't have a job board on the site, but it's got like the site obviously has its branding. So just trying to integrate the design of the site into RecPress and kind of vice versa.
So we're taking colors and fonts and buttons and things, and then you're applying those as you see fit.
And like
client saying, "Is this what you were thinking?"
Exactly. So form input fields and stuff. Just making sure it looks like part of the website and not something that's just like bolted on. Cool. So yeah, I think that's gone pretty well. I've got another one of those to do next week. So I'm looking forward to that. Again, that's going to be using version 1 for other reasons because there's more integrations with other services that they want to use that version 1 suits better. So yeah, version 2 is still on the back burner slightly, but it will come. And then, I've been doing some design work for this build. So part of our brief is to design a few of the templates and a few of the patterns, I guess, that are going to be used throughout the site. So a few bits of the design from the original design agency didn't feel fully kind of fleshed out, and the client just wanted a bit of extra work, a bit of extra love. So I've been doing that, things like a gallery card, and then there's an area of the site. It's been quite fun actually to work on. It's like the what's on section, and it's kind of like a collage of like galleries, blog posts, news articles, stuff pulled in from Instagram, all this kind of stuff like in a grid. So that was kind of fun to design, and they really liked the stuff I did for that. So that's cool. And then I've got a bunch of page templates as well. So I think the design agency did like 5 page templates.
They were commissioned to do that, weren't they?
Yeah, so there's loads more to do. So I've still got to do like what a standard page looks like, which they didn't do. The blog page, the single blog articles, the contact page, like being some of like the main ones. So there's a bunch to do. I've also been working on the kind of design of the header, the site header. Because in the mock-ups, they were kind of static mock-ups, and there's no sense of what happens when you scroll down the page. Does the header stay at the top? Is it sticky, or does it just kind of flow with the page? They want it to be sticky, but in the designs, there's no indication of how that actually works. Because it's a transparent background. So what happens? Do I introduce a color in behind? If so, when and how, and what's the color, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm doing that kind of work. It's been fun. I had to recreate the work because the original designs were done in XD, and I don't have Adobe Creative Cloud or anything, so I've had to recreate that design in Sketch, which is what I still use, and then go from there. But now that I've got that, it's all good, and I can move quite quickly.
So this build obviously was designed by an external agency that our client was already using for other things, weren't they? So, and then obviously they've designed, I think it was 5 pages they were commissioned to do, and then we kind of just said in our brief, like, we're capable of filling in the rest type thing. So they've provided those page designs. They've provided some like button styling and typography, things like that, haven't they? So do you think that's a success? Do you think that's a good way of doing it, or do you think it's better just to get either us to do the whole thing or someone else to do the whole thing? Has it been painful, or has it been
it's been
actually
a bit
quite enjoyable? I don't know.
No.
Your thoughts?
No, I think it's been painful because I don't really like what was produced, and now I feel responsible for
Yeah,
turning that into something good. Whereas I think I would have preferred either to work with. I don't want to say a better. I don't want to say I'm not. I don't mean a better design agency because I actually don't know what they signed up to, what
yeah,
was agreed, what that process was like with the client. It could have been really difficult, and they might have been doing their best, but whatever. And the client actually did come back and say they really liked the designs, so they did their job.
yeah.
Um, I'm not really happy with them, but like from what I was delivered. So yeah, I feel like what's missing from me now, what I really wanted from them was some sense of flair. Flair is the wrong word. Personality, some kind of like motifs that I could kind of pull into the design, like in creative ways. And there wasn't that. It was very flat, very vanilla, very like
Yeah,
kind of
you used
minimal, but not like good minimal in my opinion.
you used the word unfinished,
Yeah,
but
underdesigned or something I said. I think.
under-designed as well. You said, I think, but it's difficult to know what the brief
Yeah,
was between the client and them, so it's hard to sort of criticize because, like you said, we don't know. That might have been what they were asked to do, so it's really difficult. But
yeah,
I think what you've done so far with the sections you've done has been really. It's been an improvement, and it'll look nice. I
mm,
know you showed like the button stylings that you
yeah.
like, just little things that, like, we're not talking redesigns. We're just talking little things added that really makes it a little bit more personal and
Yeah, I feel
you
like I
know,
haven't found the one yet though. Like I feel like there's something that I haven't unlocked in that design yet
right.
that's really just gonna transform it. I don't know if you remember the site we did for ABM training,
I did. I
and
like that site.
it had the little kind of curved dotted lines with the arrows
Oh
pointing
yeah,
from, and like it was just it just elevated that whole design. Like without that, it was a non-design. And it was one little idea that came from their other branding work that I introduced into the website that I thought just lifted that. And I haven't got that from this agency. Like I haven't got that thing that I can like use that just
yeah,
makes it
and run with yeah,
look a bit more special and a bit more personal. And
yeah,
um,
yeah.
so
That
yeah,
that
I find
design
it difficult. I find it difficult.
that design for ABM training, that was one of my favorite ones, and we did that from scratch. That wasn't an agency, was it? That was using
No,
their branding, so their colors, their
yeah,
logo, some
and
of
they
the other
had
collateral they had. Yeah,
exactly. They had like PDFs, they had brochures and things, and I was
yeah,
able to pull some of the creative like ideas from those brochures into
yeah,
this. Whereas
yeah. It was nice.
I haven't been given any of that, and I've had to kind of rework all the typography. It was one of those classic kind of designs where like, right, let's look at all the typographic rules, and I pull them in. It's like there's 17 font sizes used in this design. Like, how am I going to manage that? So it's
Yeah,
thing, and like the spacing was really inconsistent, and just basic stuff. Yeah, it kind of makes me roll my eyes a little bit. But
good,
there you go.
good,
But
good.
I am once I've started, I've actually kind of enjoyed it. Like I've
Yeah.
enjoyed opening up Sketch and thinking, right, let's play. Let's just riff on something. I think someone asked a question like, do I just riff? It was always open design. Said, what is your process for designing the page views they didn't do? Do you collaborate, stroke, get approval with the designers, or just do it and riff on their work? So the designers are gone; they're finished.
Yeah.
Um, they've done their job, and now it's been passed over to me. So there's no collaboration with them from this point on.
Yeah,
Uh,
just to confirm, like, they've not been sacked. When we said they've
yeah,
finished,
they're
they've
gone.
finished their job. They've delivered what they said they were going to deliver.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So I kind of have free reign, and then it's just down to me coming up with ideas and running them by the client, and so far the clients like what I've come up with.
the
I've
clients
gone
also
to
openly asked, haven't they, you to do these things? Like, is there
yes,
anything you can improve on? And then that's fine.
and I've suggested some areas where I think it needed improvement as well.
Yeah,
You know, I said I like we could do something slightly more interesting with the button styles. They're just so plain,
yeah.
and things like that. So
Kind
so
of
it's been good. I think it's gonna the end result is hopefully going to be an improvement of what they had. You know, when these designs were
yeah.
delivered, hopefully I'll be able to add something to them and not ruin them. But yeah, it's been good.
That what's on section that you designed with like that looks nice. God knows how I'm going to build it, but that was nice.
Nah, I think we'll be all right with that. I don't know how yet either, but I think we'll be all right.
because it's got a mix of like videos, images, blog posts. I think there's like a slider of content in there as well, and then we've also got potentially pulling in some Instagram images, which I'm not for, but they seem to be for. So we'll have to see if we can work out.
Yeah, what are people's opinions on that? Like pulling in feeds from social platforms like Instagram or Facebook or X or whatever. Like, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Like, because Mark, you're pretty dead against it, and I'm like
pretty dead against it.
If the client wants it, they can have it. So it'd be interesting to know what other people think about that.
And I think it's the reason for that is because one of them, like undeniably, is it's just complicated to do. So it wasn't actually in our brief as well. We'd have to quote for it. It's very difficult to do. And why do you want to show Instagram images on your website? I would have thought the objective there would be to say, hey, we have an Instagram account, go and follow it and view the content that we have on Instagram. And thirdly, I would imagine, and I know this is the case with X or Twitter, or it used to be before it got taken over, you can't display that content on your website how you want to display it. You have to display it according to the guidelines and rules. So if that's the case, and the guidelines and rules are essentially saying you've got to display it like we display it on Instagram, then that's what I would probably do. So that's my take on it. It's not something I'd probably want to do. I just think the days of sticking your tweets on there are not there anymore.
I can completely agree. I think it's that sense that I think a lot of companies want to have of like freshness, like there's stuff going on. Like we're not like a static, especially a school, which I guess can maybe feel a bit like stuffy or old or whatever. And they want that sense of dynamism, and they think that's going to give it to them. I'd argue it doesn't really, especially. The two worst things that can happen is you don't update those social networks, and therefore the content that you're pulling in makes everything look even older.
Yeah. Or
the APIs break and you've got a big cannot load such and such section, So I don't massively think it's worth it, but there you go. I'm happy to give it a go.
It's just more complexity to look after down the line as well. If it's us, it's still complex, but if it's not us, which it should be, I think it is going to be, but we've jumped on sites, haven't we? And you see they've got all these connections that just don't work anymore, and then the design gets broken because everything doesn't pull in properly. It's just a mess.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So we'll have to see how that goes, but yeah, we'll have to come up with a plan on how to build that and integrate it and make it look cool. And then also, what happens? How does it respond? Is it just going to stack? I wonder, or not sure.
It's going to stack probably. Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do the grid because it's a proper grid. Like it's not a Flexbox thing. It's like
a masonry
multiple rows and columns with things overlapping the grid items, and it's not super fancy. I was thinking of using the advanced columns plugin for it because I don't unless I just again roll my own something and it just like automatically pulls in. We just build a block for that whole section. And we, choose three. I don't know. We could pull in the latest 3 Instagram posts. We pull in the latest blog post, the latest news article, the latest 3 galleries, and you're done. Like I don't think it needs a UI for the client necessarily.
Yeah, it could be. It's just a block that you drop on, and then it does its thing. Yeah. Potentially, maybe that's the case, or a shortcode or something like that. Yeah, that's a good point. Couple of points on that. Is it what I presume this is about the Instagram? Is it what users are looking for? I'd argue not, because they'd be on Instagram if they were.
But isn't it to maybe like how do you advertise the Instagram? The fact that there is an Instagram channel. If you want to get more people following you on Instagram, is that not a good way to do it?
I'd put a link to it in that what's on section, then just a link, Instagram, maybe with a selected photo that says, this is our Instagram page.
That was the original brief, wasn't it? That's what we were going to do in our proposal.
Nick says sounds like too much like hard work. Yeah, I agree. Nick does to me as well. Very 2010s. Thank you. 92.
2010s.
And then, sorry, have I overtook you there? Clients sometimes just like to see all this stuff. I try to dissuade from that. Focus on what the user needs, not the organization's desires. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. I'm not sure you want to be advertising the fact that,
I think they want to show like And maybe there's just a better. This is the classic thing. Is like, tell us what you're trying to do rather than giving us the solution. I think they're trying to show the kind of breadth of activity at the school, because the school is like, they do amazing stuff.
Yeah,
they're putting on performances and going on amazing field trips, and there's lots of cool stuff to show. And I think they're just trying to get an overall sense of that in one hit. Yeah. Maybe there was a better way to do that, but that's we'll see.
Elliot says social icons. I presume that you mean like just link icons to those
us
accounts.
On. Yeah,
I kind of agree. Yeah, but
yeah,
like most people, they want them in the header. It's like, why do you want them in the header? No, you don't want them in the header. You want them in the footer. So you've kind of got to have that argument about it. So we'll get there in the end. But it's interesting to look at that project. How it comes across. You'll be able to see it obviously when it's built. We can share it, which should be nice. So you can get that.
Yeah. I think we should wrap up for the day. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Well, thanks for joining us again. Stay. What do I want to say?
I don't know.
Stay friendly. I just think, like, without going into everything that's going on, there's humans behind all of this that have feelings, and I need to take this advice myself. But just be nice. be nice to your fellow WordPressers. Like, we're all dividing ourselves up into camps when the situation is complicated and messy. And so just be nice to each other. Like and subscribe. Thanks, Elliot. Do our marketing for us. That's great. And thanks for joining us. Please do consider liking, subscribing, sharing. That'd be great. And thanks for being here this time, and we will see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.